Like I said, I'm a guarantee us, in the playoffs for sure. But we're gonna come and get to work. We got a lot to do. Coach Taylor, he's gonna have us right for sure.
Oh, welcome to Sports Rock. I'm Elise Jesse. He is Brandon Seho, and the Bengals are 0-7. I don't think they're going to be going to the playoffs this year. There are glaring problems with this 0-7 Bengals offense. Aside from the injuries, Joe Mixon is not the same player he was last season. Through 7 games, he has 252 rushing yards and 0 rushing touchdowns. Mixon's inability to get going was not present last year. In fact, he led the AFC in rushing yards with over 1,100 and added 8 TDs. Going into today's game, Andy Dalton led the NFL with the smallest window of time to get rid of the ball at just over 2 seconds. After today's loss, he was clearly frustrated.
I think when you get behind the chains sometimes, when we try to run the ball early.
And we welcome in Tyler Dragon. He is the beat reporter for the Bengals for the Cincinnati Enquirer. And Tyler, you know as well as I do that essentially the same players were on the field last season. So what is going on this year to where the offense as a whole cannot seem to get going?
Well, you have a new offensive line coach, and the offensive line has battled some injuries. Players are frustrated, and rightfully so. They are 0-7, and I don't see a win coming in the near future.
Yeah, I heard the word frustrated quite a lot this afternoon as well. And talking a little bit more about Joe Mixon, now in week 7, teams are starting to load the box and really frustrate Joe Mixon with that run game. But early on in the season, we saw where Joe Mixon was kind of missing those big holes that the offensive line would create for him. Do you think that he is struggling with the coaching change?
I won't point the finger at Joe Mixon.
Welcome to Sports Rock. Tyler Dragon, kind enough to stick with us because we have barely skimmed the surface of these stories revolving around the Cincinnati Bengals right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. There's a lot of them, but one of the biggest, if not the biggest, is what the Bengals are going to do with 7-time Pro Bowler A.J. Green.
Yeah, the NFL trade deadline is a week from Tuesday, and there are reports surfacing that A.J. Green won't be healthy enough to play until after that trade deadline on October 29th. Zach Taylor assured the media that the team would not be trading Green, but as we've seen, the Patriots can be pretty convincing when they want something. And honestly, Tyler, I think everybody would agree with this. A.J. Green can fit anywhere because he's that good. Do you think the Patriots might make a play for him? Because as we know, the Patriots only try to make their team better as the year progresses.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Teams are calling the Bengals to inquire about A.J. Green. Every single week, they are losing.
Do you think it is a ridiculous policy to have Zach Taylor answer all of the questions surrounding the organization? Because there are many who would love to talk to Duke Tobin about the draft or Mike Brown about why the team is in its current state right now, because this is the team that Zach Taylor inherited. Do you think it's fair that Zach Taylor does have to answer all of those questions all season long?
I think it's a little bit unfair because that's a lot on his plate.
I've noticed, and I'm sure you both have noticed this also, that the Bengals players look pretty confused out there. Last year, they didn't seem to look as confused as they do this season. So what would we attribute that to?
New coaching staff, frustration, losing after losing after losing each and every week.
Welcome to The Rock. I'm Elise Jesse. He is Brandon Seho, and today's game was a complete mess. Abysmal, to be exact. It was the opposite of what fans were expecting at Paul Brown Stadium in Zach Taylor's first home opener as an NFL head coach.
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't good. Not at all. Andy Dalton.
Well, today, Lou Anarumo has to be shaking his head. The Bengals defense looked nothing like it did in Week 1 against Seattle. Missed assignments and missed tackles were plentiful in this game. Since he couldn't stop the run, and San Fran rushed for 259 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Jimmy Garoppolo threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. This team could not get it together. They go back to the drawing board tomorrow.
The first week we didn't have a lot of mental errors. This one we had a lot of mental errors, and that's just not what we're about.
We welcome in Paul Dehner Jr., senior writer and podcaster for The Athletic, and I love this podcast. It's Hear That Podcast Growlin'. You can hear him with Jay Morrison. Good stuff every single week from you guys. And in the locker room, not a locker room that typically we like going into. A losing locker room is never fun. But what was your take on just the guys' demeanor after this game?